It's the most terrible time of the year, tax day. According to IRS data, Americans are projected to receive $20 billion less in tax refunds this year. Oh, good news. Analysts fear that will drop further pressure on an already fragile U.S. economy. Right on cue, abolish the IRS, trending on Twitter today. Democrats want us to believe that paying our taxes is a patriotic duty, but working Americans simply aren't buying that, as they are now forced to fund a government they know is incompetent and a government the vast majority of our people do not trust. Joining me now is President of Americans for Tax Reform, Grover Norquist. It's great to see you, sir. You know, I've run into some folks lately, mostly on Twitter, with the attitude that we should just accept our fate. The government's going to take our money whether we want them to or not. But that's completely antithetical, in my view, to our American system. Is it the taxpayer's responsibility to finance every stupid idea government comes up with, Grover?
No, it's Congress's job to make sure that government and the president to make sure that government spending is on things that are mentioned once or twice in the Constitution. And there's a great deal of present day federal government, state and local government that is extra constitutional, that there is no justification for, and that I don't know that we'll get courts to knock it down, although this court's capable of doing some of that. But it really is something that we need to elect House, Senate presidents that take this seriously and are willing to rein in spending. We are seeing this in the 50 states. Some states are being serious about spending reduction, spending restraint. Others are not. And it gives you a good idea of what works and what doesn't.
Our tax code, here's what doesn't work. 70,000 pages, in excess of 70,000 pages. Here's Dr. Benjamin Carson in 2014 explaining one of the reasons why this is so dangerous.
What about our taxation system? So complex. There is no one who can possibly comply with every jot and tittle of our tax. If I wanted to get you or you, I could get you on a tax issue. That doesn't make any sense. What we need to do is come up with something that's simple. And when I pick up my Bible, you know what I see? I see the fairest individual in the universe, God, and he's given us a system. It's called tithe.
So this is exactly, Mr. Norquist, what's happening to President Trump right now, the weaponization of the tax code. If the government ever wants to shut you up, all they got to do is, audit you and make your life miserable. This is just one of the many abuses of the income tax, yes?
It is. And one of the challenges with the income tax is that the government has to have so much information. There are ways to simplify it, to tax income or consumed income, not tax people's savings and investment, which is simply taxing that same dollar again and again and again. There are a number of things. Matter of fact, the IRS is by law required to report every year on ways in which the tax code could become less abusive, easier to understand and comply with. And for the last 20 years, under presidents of both parties and Congresses of both parties, the IRS has failed to put together that annual study that is required by law. And yet they don't get fired and they still get paid.
Yeah, no kidding. It's also against the law to use the federal government against your political opponents. That didn't stop Lois Lerner. That didn't stop Barack Obama. You know, Americans did not pay income tax until 1913, after the ratification of the 16th Amendment. Our government was limited before then, smaller, accountable, and manageable by Congress back then. Shouldn't we be working to get back to that, Mr. Norquist?
Sure. We were looking at 3 to 4% of GDP paid for without an income tax. The sale of federal land was part of the savings. There's a lot of federal land, and there's trillions and trillions of dollars of value, minerals, and so on underneath the ground. If you could sell that, you could pay down the national debt very easily. And then, of course, excise taxes and other taxes along those lines. If the government's small enough, you don't need lots of taxes. The states, of the 50 states, there are 7 states that have no personal income tax, period. There are another 15 that are moving towards zero. So in 15, 16 years, you will have more than 20 states in the United States that have no state income tax, which will get, and increasing numbers of states that have single rate taxes. So right now there are 7 and 12, 19 states that are single rate taxes, flat rate taxes. If we do it at the state level, we could do it at the federal level. If there was one single rate, whenever the politicians wanted to raise your taxes, they would have to look everybody in the country in the eye and say, your all taxes are all going up. And when they want to reduce taxes, they can say to everybody, you're going to cut everybody's taxes. Makes it easy to reduce, difficult to raise.
How enlightened of those states that go with no income tax? I mean, only a complete idiot wants to tax a desirable activity. Everybody should want to earn an honest living. Earn money is a good thing, and why your government would want to stand in your way of doing that or disincentivize that is beyond me. So, Mr. Norquist, what are you guys working on, Americans for Tax Reform? What is your main focus these days?
Two things. One is reforming the IRS, getting them to follow the law, getting them to not look at your tax return unless they're actually doing work on it, making sure that the systems inside alert the police if anybody's looking at your tax reforms illegally. It's 5 years in prison, and it ought not to happen, but it does, and they don't enforce the law. So getting the IRS to obey the law and to be less abusive. The other is at the state level, making sure that we get all the states that would like to phase their income tax down to zero to do it the way North Carolina has been doing it for the last 12 years, the way Arizona's gotten themselves down to 2.5 and now wants to go on to zero. If people are interested in either of those, if they text the word Biden to 50446, no request for money, but we'll send you the material on what the reforms in the IRS we're looking at. I did a press conference today with a number of congressmen that have some very good reforms that they want to get votes on, House and Senate, and get enacted at some point soon. And also on the state by state is a great map that you can find at our website, which has the list.
Interesting choice of. Yeah, interesting choice of words for your keyword there, Biden. I guess that would inspire a lot of people to go away from the insanity and go toward the sane. Grover Norquist, thank you very much. Appreciate all of your good work, sir.